never settle for one sub. If you do this, you doing yourself a big disservice. So as a dom, if you settle for one sub, you're doing yourself a huge disservice because in the BDSM lifestyle, there are so many aspects of the lifestyle you can explore. Now, some might say they're waiting for their dream sub to come along so they could just only have one sub and explore all the aspects with that one sub. I'm letting you know right now, don't do that. You should always have or aim to have multiple subs because I remember when I had one sub, I settled for that one sub. I wasn't trying to attract other subs. I even rejected other subs because I said, you know what? I already got a sub right now. I don't want to deal with another one. But the reason why I found that I was doing myself a huge disservice is because the kinks and the fetishes that one sub that I was with was into, there were also other kinks and fetishes that she wasn't into that I wanted to explore. But being that those were some of her limitations, it was to the point when, wow, being that she can't do it, I can't do it either. So that's how I was doing myself a huge disservice because I was letting her limitations stop me from exploring aspect of the lifestyle with other subs. So with that being said, as a dom, always seek to have multiple subs because you also got to remember subs come and go. And I remember when the dynamic with my sub was over, I really started to think and reflect about all the other subs I rejected. All the other subs I didn't give any attention to when they were showing interest in me. I started to think about that. And then I start to realize all the experiences I missed out on. And I don't want other doms to do the same thing in the future. I see a lot of doms, and I'm guilty for this too, being in a dynamic and then they have an encounter with another sub and they say, man, I can't do that because I'm with my sub. Now, if that's your agreement in your dynamic that you won't go outside the relationship and explore, that's one thing. If you all agree to it, you should honor that agreement if that's what you choose to do. However, don't honor that agreement out of fear of losing out of dealing with that particular sub. So, and for example, I see a lot of doms telling one sub that they don't want to have another sub, that just one sub is enough because they are scared to lose that particular sub. They are scared that they might offend that sub, and next thing you know, they missed out on dealing with that sub. So they are agreeing to it out of fear. You don't want to do that because that's not what I did. But I was so infatuated with my one sub that I was just giving all the attention to her versus still exploring my options. So with that being said, I would advise top-notch doms who have their life together, those doms who know how to conquer their life and dominate their life in a productive manner It's only right that you are in a polyamorous type of dynamic with your subs, meaning you are the only dom and you have multiple subs. Because the type of dynamic that I'm in, I have multiple subs now. Because one sub might be into a certain king, the other sub might not be into that king, but she's also into kinks that the other sub is not into. So by you having multiple subs, they kind of balance out all the limitations that each of your sub might have. So while this sub might have certain specialties and that sub might have certain limitations, they both balance each other out. So she might not do one thing, but your other sub will. That sub might not do this, but this sub will. You get what I'm saying? So, matter of fact, I'm gonna give you a quick example. I had one sub, she really, really, really didn't like going to kink events. Like when she goes to kink events, like when we go to kink events together, she's extremely shy. Extremely shy. And she was like, I love being with you, but I just hate being around a bunch of strangers. I hate it. I don't like it. Now, she still went because she was with me, but she really didn't like going to kink events. But then, on the other hand, I met another sub who loves going to kink events because she's what we call an exhibitionist. So I still got the other sub who doesn't like kink events, but now I got the other sub who does like going to kink events. Now, what if I was operating in scarcity and I just said, you know what? Since you don't like going to kink events, I won't go to no more kink events. What if? You see how many experiences I'll be missing out on? Or you can think with an abundance mentality and say, okay, I respect your limitations. Let me see what else is out there with someone else. And that's what I found. I found another sub who was into certain kinks that this sub's not into. And then vice versa. So while this sub might be an exhibitionist and she's not into other kinks, guess what? Now my other sub, she's into other kinks that this sub might not be into. So with that being said, you never want to limit yourself just because your sub might not be into certain kinks and fetishes that you're into. You need to always need to be accepting applications. Because I'm telling you, if that dynamic ends, let's say you currently in a dynamic with a sub, and it's a lot of things you want to explore, a lot of kinks and fetishes you're into that she's not into. Now, say if because whatever reason you love her, you don't want to lose her, you say, okay, since she don't want to do this, I'm not going to do it either. Can you imagine all the time that goes by, and then you all have to end that dynamic? You think about all the experiences you missed out on when you could just been seeking other options elsewhere. So what I'm trying to say is that respect her limitations, but at the same time, just because those are her limitations don't mean it has to be your limitations. This is why polygamy makes sense to me. Because when you are a polygamist, you think in abundance. You don't think in scarcity. So with that being said, always have multiple subs. This way, it balances out all of the sub specialties and limitations.
Yo.